Let me switch to another topic. It involves Ben Shapiro. I want to revisit the topic because that was from Monday's show where I spoke out against the conservative commentator who called for the pardon of police officer Derek Chauvin for the killing of George Floyd. Chauvin was sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison after being convicted of unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. I spoke out against Shapiro and those comments on Monday, and he responded with a few choice words of his own. It's only fair that I allow you to hear those words the man had to say about me.
Stephen A. Smith is one of the deepest racial identitarians in our society. He does it all the time, all the time. He does it when he talks sports. It happens literally all the time. If you're talking about Nikola Jokic, the greatest center of our generation, he'll talk about how Nikola Jokic should not be included in conversations for MVP specifically because of his race. The reason Stephen A. Smith is saying this kind of stuff is because he is projecting. He is projecting a racial conversation where none exists. The reason that Stephen A. Smith is exercised over the George Floyd situation is specifically because of a racial narrative that is not predicated on facts. And then he's projecting that into me being some sort of racist for suggesting that the racial narrative should not predominate. This is the whole reason that Black Lives Matter was such a mistake and such a fail. Because it was racializing of a question that was not in fact racial. And this is, again, it's just more evidence that what I'm saying about Chauvin is true. That the reason that Derek Chauvin is in prison right now is because he was the wrong race and George Floyd was the wrong race. And because of that, Derek Chauvin is in prison right now. Because here's the dirty little secret. It never would have been a national news story if the races had been reversed or if both people had been white or if both people had been black. It would not have been a national news story. And that means that the officer would have been assessed on the facts of the situation rather than on the racial narrative people like Stephen A. Smith were propagating. Okay, meanwhile, again, this is part and parcel of a broader left-wing failure when it comes to narrative. The left-wing narrative has failed on so many fronts.
Good Lord. Damn, Ben Shapiro, I thought I talked fast. I've got nothing on you. Nothing. Good Lord. Let me try to address Ben Shapiro as best as I possibly can. Number one, I'm not accusing you of being a racist, nor am I alluding to it. I know close to nothing about you. I've never even listened to one of your shows. And that may be my loss. Because anybody that's got over 7 million subscribers and has the potency of the voice that you have, you got to be doing something right. Let me tell you a little bit something about me, Ben Shapiro. If I thought you were a racist, I'd call you a racist. I wouldn't sugarcoat it. I wouldn't dance around it. I wouldn't allude to it. I'd say so. I don't know you. So it's very irresponsible, or it would be very irresponsible for me to say that. Having said that, although I will concede that the word irresponsible is not applicable here when it comes to you and what you're saying, the flip side to it, however, is I'm entitled to deduce from what you're saying how wrong I believe you are about something and how it and to challenge you on how it makes no sense to me that out of all the things that you could approach President Trump about, since after not supporting him in 2016 and not even voting in the election, because I read up on you about that in 2024, you've campaigned for him, you donated to him, and you voted for him. And one would surmise you have some kind of relationship with him. I'm sure that out of all the things that you could talk to him about, that you could approach him about issuing a pardon for, it does give one cause to pause why the Derek Chauvin case would be that one. See, he says, I raised my voice. And oh, by the way, I apologize, Ben Shapiro. Let me dial down the volume so you don't have an excuse for not hearing me. Let me be calm and cool as I'm talking to you and your listeners and your followers, who I'm sure are quite smart and all that stuff. And before I even go any further, let me say this, just reading up on you. Incredibly impressive resume, my brother. Political commentator, author, lawyer, columnist, media host, University of California, BA degree, Harvard Law School, JD degree, conservative. You understand? Skipped 2 grades in school and enrolled at UCLA at the age of 16. Graduating summa cum laude in political science. Later attended Harvard Law School, earning your JD in 2007. That's pretty damn impressive. I couldn't have pulled that off. Never did. Major props to you. Began your career as a writer, becoming one of the youngest nationally syndicated columnists in the United States of America at the age of 17. Over time, expanded into multiple media roles, including as an author, commentator, and speaker. You wrote books. You know, you got the Daily Wire since 2015, the podcast, public speaking engagements, etc. Man, this is impressive. Obviously, my resume doesn't compare to yours. And it shouldn't. I haven't earned what you've earned, sir. And I'm not about to go tit for tat for you politically, because I don't know as much as you, because I'm a baby at all of this compared to you guys. But I smell something that stinks. And respectfully, sir, it's you with your opinion about Derek Chauvin being pardoned. Notice how you went the liberal route, as if I don't have conservative friends. They aren't conservatives that I would support. They aren't conservatives I would have voted for. I told everybody that this election I'd have voted for anybody but Trump. Maybe not DeSantis after he brought up how there's benefits to slavery. I didn't like that. And I didn't like how folks piggybacked off of that. I just have an ultra level of sensitivity to that, because there's everyday life that we're talking about here. And if you don't harbor a level of sensitivity as to how it affects communities other than your own, when you take such positions, I have a hard time being supportive of you in that regard. But I would have voted for Christie. Probably would have voted for Ramaswamy. I definitely would have voted for Nikki Haley. Back in 2016, I definitely would have voted for Kasich. Without question. I'd have voted for Marco Rubio. I'm proud to see Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State. I think he's going to do a great job. He's more than qualified. You were a supporter of Ted Cruz, if I remember correctly. I ain't like the whole Tea Party thing, but I respected it. I respected where they were coming from. Less government intervention, free market capitalism, controlling our borders. I'm not against those messages, sir. You and I might have some things in common, Ben Shapiro, you don't even realize. Not this. So stop attaching me to the left that I criticize all the time, because I'm sick of what they've done. I apologize, I got $1 back. Stop connecting me with the liberals. I'm disgusted with them. I think they've led us down a bad path, and they've led their own party down a path of destruction. I've heard you allude to such things, and I agree with you. They better get their act together. They seem to have lost their mind. But getting back to Derek Chauvin, you know, Ben Shapiro, you brought up fentanyl, that being in his system. You brought up his criminal record. I have it all in front of me. 1997 to 2007, 9 separate occasions in which authorities arrested him, mostly on drug and theft charges that resulted in months-long jail sentences. I got it right here. Ben. I also have the autopsy. I'll read a couple of graphs to you, Ben, because it doesn't change. See it right there, Ben? See that? Right there. And let me read this to you, Ben. According to the county's post-mortem toxicology screening, which is summarized below and was performed one day after George Floyd's death, he was intoxicated with fentanyl and had recently used methamphetamines, as well as other substances before Chauvin choked him. And you see the stuff on the bottom. It's right there. Let me read a couple of other graphs to you, Ben. Firstly, on May 29, 2020, court documents revealed the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's investigation into Floyd's death showed, quote, no physical findings that support a diagnosis of traumatic asphyxiation, and that potential intoxicants and pre-existing cardiovascular disease, quote, likely contributed to his death. Note, coronary artery disease and hypertension typically increase patients' risk of stroke and heart attack over the years, not minutes, and asphyxia or suffocation does not always leave physical signs, according to doctors. But then 2 days later, the county released a statement that attributed Floyd's cause of death to cardiopulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement subdual restraint and neck compression, which essentially means he died because his heart and lungs stopped while he was being restrained by police. That announcement came just hours after Floyd's family released findings of a separate private autopsy that determined Floyd had indeed died from a combination of Chauvin's knee on his neck and pressure on his back from the other officers. Let me get back to you specifically, Mr. Ben Shapiro. Wouldn't you agree that certain things don't have anything to do with politics? When police officers for the LAPD beat the living crap out of Rodney King in the early 90s, do you believe those officers should have been let off as he was on the ground writhing in pain, rolling around as they beat him mercilessly with their batons? I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you probably thought that was wrong. My point, Ben Shapiro, is how much evidence do you need to see to understand that something was at the very least a contributing factor? See, you're trying to go down a lane I wasn't trying to go down. I'm not going to let you take me there, which is why I turned down your invitation to appear on your show. We're not getting into all of the science and what the doctor said and an autopsy report, even though I just read it to you to some degree. We don't have to go there. I'm simply saying, did you not see him handcuffed behind his back? If he's handcuffed behind his back and laying on the ground, Ben Shapiro, why does the knee need to be on his neck? You can go out. I saw the reports that Candace Owens did as she was undressing Black Lives Matter. By the way, you're looking at somebody who's been critical of Black Lives Matter myself once we learned some of the things we learned. What I'm saying to you is it doesn't negate what Officer Chauvin did. There was no reason to have a knee on his neck. We're literally going to get into, there's drugs in his system. He has an arrest record. What does that have to do with the knee being on the neck of a man laying on the ground, handcuffed behind his back? Why? Why? Laid on his back, compressed to such a degree that there was imprints and scars on his face from being pressed against the pavement by the knee of Derek Chauvin. It wasn't just me. Mark Levin said that. Numerous other conservative hosts said that. I know for a fact Sean Hannity said that. You don't want to quote him either? Could it be that you were a bit late to the party supporting Trump? You know how they are, late to arrive, early to leave. That wasn't him. He was supporting Trump from day one when people like yourself and Glenn Beck and others said that ain't the way to go. Is that something that's why you can't vibe? Am I missing something, Ben Shapiro? I'm a moderate who can lean in either direction. I have friends on both sides. I might have voted liberal the vast majority of my life, pretty much always, when it comes to the presidency. But I'm not beyond acknowledging that some conservative policies work and some conservative people are better candidates, damn sure for sure, than those on the liberal side. Somebody like a Byron Donald, if he runs for the governor for the governor of Florida, I'll probably vote for him. I'd vote for Wes Moore, the Democrat, for the president any day of the week. That has nothing to do with this conversation, Ben Shapiro. The knee of Derek Chauvin was on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes as he said he couldn't breathe, as he cried for his mama, and as numerous people were there filming it and taking pictures, pleading with the police officer to get his knee off his neck. He didn't move. He did everything short of laughing in people's face, while he at the very least contributed to snatching the breath of life from this man. And you're coming to us with a criminal record and fentanyl or whatever other drugs was in his system to say, well, that's what really killed him, not the knee on the neck. Well, if the knee hadn't been on his neck, would he have died in that instant right there? It's not like he died because he was laying on the ground with his hands cuffed behind his back. That's not what happened. He died because there was pressure on his back and his neck from Chauvin and other officers. That's what happened. Don't come to me with all of this stuff. Don't accuse me with, identity politics and liberals and we're racializing everything. If a black police officer had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9+ minutes, there would have still been riots in the streets at that time. Period. All I'm saying is, of all the things you could think of as deserving for a pardon for somebody incarcerated, this is the case. You can try to bring up left and right and all that stuff. I'm not bringing up conservatism. I'm not bringing up liberalism. I'm not bringing up progressivism. I'm bringing up you. You. With this issue. Nothing else. I don't know enough about your other positions, but I know you're a strong supporter of Israel, as well as you should be. I get your background. I understand. I know you're a strong conservative, free market capitalism, controlling our borders. Safety, I get it. This ain't about liberal versus conservative. It's about you. You saw what Derek Chauvin did. Don't come to me with a doctor's report. You saw it with your own 2 eyes. That's all this is about. So to the Ben Shapiro listeners and viewers out there, keep on watching him. Keep on supporting him. I'm not here to cast any aspersions on him. Just don't let him get away with trying to make this more than what it is. This ain't a politically ideological battle, or anything like that. I ain't qualified to debate this man on those kind of issues. We're talking about Derek Chauvin with the knee on the neck of George Floyd. And you coming with some report to justify him being pardoned when you saw the video of the man with his knee on George Floyd's neck. This ain't about politics. This is about you. Deal with that. Or don't. Either way, I don't care. I just spoke about what I saw. You're entitled to do the same anytime you want. I respect the resume. I respect your accomplishments. I wish you nothing but the best. I just disagree with you about Derek Chauvin. Stop trying to hide from that. We're talking about Derek Chauvin. That's what we're talking about. Nothing else. Coming up.